There is a moment that changes everything, and most men do not even notice it until it is already happening. It is the moment a woman realizes she has truly lost you. Not for a few hours, not because you were busy for one day, not because you were emotionally distant for a short time. I mean, the moment she understands that your attention is no longer centered on her, your energy is no longer available whenever she wants it, and your presence is no longer something she can easily reach. When that realization becomes real, her entire perception can shift. The same man she may have delayed, questioned, taken lightly, or assumed would always be there can suddenly look very different in her eyes. He becomes more valuable because he is no longer easy to access. This is not about playing games. It is not about trying to manipulate feelings. It is about understanding what happens when availability changes. People often notice value more clearly when they no longer have easy access to it. Many men make the mistake of giving too much too soon, staying too available, and investing too heavily without strong boundaries. Over time, that can lower how valuable they seem, not because they are not good enough, but because they make their presence feel guaranteed. But when a man genuinely pulls back, focuses on his own life, and stops chasing, something often changes in the woman too. She starts to feel the difference. She starts to think more. She starts to see what is no longer there. In this breakdown, we are going to go through 7 psychological shifts that often happen when a woman realizes she has lost you. When you understand these patterns, you stop moving out of desperation. You stop trying to force things. You start acting with more self-respect, more control, and more clarity. First, she feels the void. The first thing that often happens when a woman realizes she has lost you is that she feels the space you used to fill. And that hits deeper than a lot of men expect. When you were there, texting, checking in, showing interest, and offering attention, that became part of her emotional routine, even if she did not always fully appreciate it. Your energy became familiar, your presence became normal. She got used to knowing that you were there. Once that disappears, there is suddenly a gap. And that gap creates contrast. People do not always understand the value of something while it is constantly available. Sometimes they understand it most clearly when it is gone. When your attention is no longer there, she starts to notice that absence. It is not only about fewer messages, it is about the emotional shift. She no longer has the same access to your reactions, your consistency, your attention, and your focus. That creates discomfort. It creates a subtle sense that something important is missing. This is where her mind starts replaying interactions and noticing the silence more than she noticed your presence before. A lot of men ruin this stage by rushing back too fast. They feel uncomfortable with the distance, so they text, explain, chase, or try to restore the old dynamic before she has fully felt the loss. But when you do that, you remove the contrast. You do not allow the absence to create any emotional impact. The power of the void is that it makes her sit with what is no longer there. It makes her experience the difference between having you and not having you. Over time, that void often grows from a simple missing feeling into curiosity and emotional awareness. She may start wondering what you are doing, why you changed, and whether your energy is really gone. But for this to work, the distance has to be real. If she feels you are doing it just to trigger her, the effect becomes weak. But if you genuinely shift back toward your own life, your goals, and your standards, then the void becomes meaningful. She starts realizing that your presence was never something she should have assumed would always be there. That is where the shift begins. Second, she starts reflecting. Once she feels the void, the next thing that often happens is reflection. Her mind starts reviewing the connection. She begins looking at the relationship, the conversations, the behavior, and the emotional pattern between you. She may start asking herself questions she did not take seriously before. Did I take him for granted? Did I push too far? Did I delay too much? Did I fail to appreciate what he actually brought into my life? Reflection is powerful because it creates awareness. While you were always there, she may not have felt any pressure to think deeply about what your presence meant. But once you are no longer predictable, her mind begins trying to understand the change. She replays conversations. She remembers the way you made her feel. She thinks about moments when you showed up for her, made her laugh, supported her, or gave her attention in ways that now feel absent. A lot of men misread this stage completely. They assume silence means she does not care, but silence can often mean she is thinking. Reflection is not always loud. It often happens privately. It happens when she is alone, when she sees something that reminds her of you, or when she notices that what she once treated casually now feels different. The absence gives her room to analyze without your presence distracting her from the process. This reflection can bring up regret, curiosity, appreciation, and even longing, but those emotions need room to grow. If you interrupt that too early by chasing again, you break the process. The strongest thing a man can do during this stage is stay steady. Keep living your life, keep your dignity, keep your focus, let her reflect without pressure. As she reflects, she often starts to see the connection more clearly than before. She notices what made you different. She notices how your presence affected her. She notices that losing you is not the same as losing someone ordinary. That is the beginning of renewed value in her mind. Third, she notices your value. This is one of the most important shifts. When a man is always present, always available, and always giving, it becomes easy for his value to blend into the background. Not because he lacks value, but because there is no contrast. His attention becomes expected. His consistency becomes normal. His effort becomes something she may stop consciously noticing. But once that is gone, the things she overlooked begin to stand out. She starts recognizing your value in ways she did not before. She sees your consistency differently. She remembers your humor, your attention to detail, your emotional steadiness, your confidence, your way of showing up, and your ability to make her feel seen. What once felt ordinary now feels rare because it is no longer available. Contrast makes value clearer. This becomes even stronger if she sees that your life did not fall apart without her. If she notices that you are still moving forward, still focused, still disciplined, and still building your life, your value increases even more. That kind of independence is powerful because it shows that your worth never depended on her reaction. You were never just waiting around. You were a whole man before her, during her, and after her. Many men do not understand this. They believe being constantly available proves love or loyalty. Sometimes it only proves predictability. But when a man steps back in a healthy, real way, he gives the other person a chance to measure his value without having him right there all the time. She starts comparing what she had with what she has now, and that comparison often works in his favor if he brought real substance. This is usually the point where she begins to realize that what she lost was not easy to replace. And that realization creates emotional weight. It changes the way she sees you. You are no longer the man who is always there. You become the man whose absence now has meaning. Fourth, emotional urgency begins to build. Once she feels the void, reflects, and starts seeing your value more clearly, another shift can happen. She begins to feel urgency. This is where the loss starts feeling real in a deeper way. It is no longer just a passing thought. It becomes a growing awareness that you may actually be gone, and that the connection may not simply return whenever she wants. Urgency grows out of scarcity. When people think they can come back whenever they want, they often move slowly. But when they realize something may truly be slipping away, emotion becomes sharper. She may begin replaying moments in her head, imagining what she could have done differently, and feeling tension over the fact that your attention is no longer easy to recover. She starts asking herself whether she waited too long, whether she misjudged you, or whether she underestimated what you meant in her life. This stage matters because emotional urgency often changes behavior. A woman who once felt relaxed about the connection may now feel pressure she did not feel before. Not outside pressure from you, but internal pressure from herself. She starts recognizing that your absence has consequences. She begins realizing that some opportunities do not stay open forever. Again, many men destroy this stage by panicking. They assume distance means they must do more, explain more, message more, or try harder. But that usually weakens the effect. Urgency has to develop inside her, not be forced from outside. The more calm and self-contained you remain, the stronger the contrast becomes. You are no longer trying to win her over. You are simply continuing your life, and that makes the urgency feel more real. This is not about punishing someone. It is about understanding that when your presence is no longer guaranteed, people often stop taking it lightly. Emotional urgency begins when she realizes that losing you is no longer theoretical. It is happening. Fifth, regret sets in. After the void, the reflection, the awareness of value, and the emotional urgency, regret often enters the picture. Regret is powerful because it is not just missing someone. It is realizing that your own choices may have contributed to losing them. That emotional shift is much deeper than simple sadness. She may start replaying how she handled things. She may think about the time she delayed, the moments she stayed distant, the time she failed to communicate properly, or the way she assumed you would keep showing up no matter what. Regret grows when someone recognizes that they had something meaningful and did not fully honor it while they had the chance. This stage can be quiet. She may not tell you right away. She may not suddenly confess everything. But internally, regret can become strong. It may show up when she remembers specific moments and realizes she should have responded differently. It may hit when she compares your presence to others and sees the difference clearly. It may show up when she recognizes that what she lost was not casual attention, but someone who genuinely brought value into her life. A lot of men interrupt this too quickly. The moment they sense small signs of interest, they rush in and try to restore everything immediately. But regret needs time to turn into real understanding. If you make it too easy too quickly, the emotional lesson may never fully land. That does not mean being cold. It means being grounded. It means not abandoning your self-respect just because you sense movement. Real regret often deepens attraction because it turns vague feelings into clear recognition. She stops seeing you as just another option. She starts seeing you as the man she may have mishandled, and that changes how seriously she views the connection. Sixth, appreciation grows. Once regret has time to settle, appreciation often starts to grow in a much deeper way. This is where she begins to consciously recognize what you actually brought into her life. What was once treated as normal now feels special. What was once taken for granted now feels meaningful. Appreciation is different from attraction alone because it includes awareness. It is not only that she wants you, it is that she understands why you mattered. She may begin thinking about your emotional stability, your consistency, your humor, your way of listening, your self-control, your reliability, and the way you made her feel when things were good. She starts mentally collecting the qualities she once overlooked. And because those qualities are now missing, they feel even more valuable. Appreciation grows through contrast. If your presence was healthy, strong, and genuine, then your absence often becomes the thing that reveals your weight in her life. This is why authentic distance can be so powerful. It does not create fake attraction, it reveals existing value more clearly. She starts to understand that what she had was not random, it was not common, it was not easy to replace. This stage often creates a change in her energy too. She may become more thoughtful, more respectful, and more careful if reconnection begins. She may no longer act from the same casual mindset as before because the connection now feels more precious. Appreciation changes behavior because once someone understands your value, they often start treating access to you differently. But again, this only works if your absence is honest and your standards are real. If you are secretly waiting, checking, and bending your whole life around her reaction, then the appreciation may never grow in a strong way. Appreciation becomes powerful when she sees that your value exists with or without her recognition. Seventh, the desire to reconnect appears. This is the final shift. After the void, reflection, value recognition, urgency, regret, and appreciation, a woman may reach the point where she genuinely wants to reconnect. This desire is not casual at that point. It is usually fueled by emotional contrast, internal processing, and the realization that your presence was meaningful and your absence is real. She may start imagining what it would feel like to have you back in her life. She may miss your energy, your steadiness, your attention, and the emotional experience of being connected to you. She may begin thinking about missed opportunities and wanting another chance to handle things differently. If the process has unfolded naturally, her desire to reconnect is not based on ego. It is based on recognition. This is where many men still fail. They either become bitter and closed off, or they become overly eager the moment they sense reconnection. Neither is ideal. The strongest move is to stay balanced. Let the reconnection happen naturally if it happens, but do not abandon the standards and self-respect that created the shift in the first place. If she wants to reconnect, let her come towards something real, not toward the same version of you that overgave and overchased. When a woman reaches this stage, the dynamic has changed. She is no longer interacting from the comfort of assuming you will always be there. She is now interacting from awareness. She understands your value more clearly. She feels your absence more honestly. And that often makes her more attentive, more emotionally present, and more willing to invest. In the end, when a woman realizes she has truly lost you, her perception often changes in stages. First, she feels the void, then she reflects, then she starts to see your value. Emotional urgency builds, regret follows, appreciation grows. And finally, the desire to reconnect can appear. These shifts do not happen because of tricks. They happen because people often understand value more clearly through absence than through constant access. The real lesson for men is simple. Stop making your presence feel automatic. Stop chasing people who are not meeting you with the same energy. Stop believing that overgiving will make someone value you more. Often it does the opposite. The answer is not to play games. The answer is to become grounded, set boundaries, and live a full life that does not revolve around whether someone chooses you today or tomorrow. When you move like that, you stop acting from fear. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to hold on to people who are not treating your presence seriously. And that changes everything. Because the moment someone realizes they have actually lost access to a man who is calm, valuable, self-respecting, and moving forward with purpose, they often begin to see him in a completely different light. That is why the strongest position is never chasing. It is clarity, it is dignity, it is being the kind of man whose absence means something because his presence was real.